Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn, and on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business career. Share them with us so that we can learn from their experiences. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everyone hates. We use this method about 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But our special guest today, I'm very excited to have Eric Farewell on. He is the owner of several different businesses he's owned since a very early age, multi-million dollars, sold them, and has moved on to helping people through coaching and consulting, which is very exciting, and kind of came across that by accident, which is really cool. So, Eric, it's great to have you on the call today, the podcast. And I want to start off by asking you a question that I always love to ask from guests. And that is this: if you were somehow able to go back in time to when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Mm. It's interesting you ask that because I have 15 different answers that pop in my head. The easy ones like stay focused. I'm an ADHD banana head. And that was definitely a challenge. Early in my career, by the time I was 18, I think I'd launched over 40 different businesses, and it's quite frankly, my lack of success was because I didn't put the intention around any one of them. And so obviously focus could be huge. But I think that the advice I would love to have given myself back then is to change the idealism of time. Most of the greats, the huge successes, the Warren Buffetts, the James Dysons, these guys who are just legends, they faced a problem. And rather than looking at it through the lens of everyone else, which is fear of failure, fear of running out of resources, fear of whatever it may be, they stretched the timeline to the extent that it was no longer a problem. It was an opportunity. It was something to be solved. And eventually it would be. In Dyson's case, it's, thousands of prototypes, maybe making one a day. Who does that, right? Well, I do now. I say when I have these big challenges, these big issues, and 2025 was without a doubt one of the most challenging years of my life. And yet I found peace. And it was probably the happiest year I've ever had also. Because what used to be urgent and must be solved right away, must be fixed, it works in relationships too, by the way. It isn't. And when I changed the timeline and stopped putting the stress of tomorrow on my shoulders, suddenly things happen for me instead of to me. And it's a huge shift for me. I wish I'd found that before I was, 30. I'll be 40 actually tomorrow, ironically. So I think I started making this rationalization about 7 years ago. And now it sits in my bones and I live it every day. And I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Well, first of all, happy early birthday to you. And Eric, what you've just said is one of the most powerful things that I think I've realized as well. And it's one of those topics that when you, at least what I found, when you try to explain it, it's a lot of times people don't get it. They don't understand it. And for everyone listening, if you can just understand that one concept, it literally will change the way you show up in life. Can you give an example, whether it's something you're currently doing in your coaching business or an example in one of your 100 other previous businesses that you've owned? Can you give a tangible example of something that's happened? Or maybe you even mentioned relationships. I mean, obviously you don't have to share anything, but just something that you go, well, look, this is the thing. I changed my time horizon and this is the impact that it had. Because I think sometimes those tangible examples can make a real difference to people.
Yeah, happy to. At first, fair warning, I gave up my secrets in 2020. So this would not be a 15-minute podcast if I dropped into relationship, but there are many examples where it shifted. I learned these lessons. I'm the first one to say, I think the rarest thing in the world is a unique idea, right? We all think we're unique snowflakes. The reality is we're all thinking as a cosmere together, right? And I had to have this lesson taught to me so many different times in so many different ways for me to finally own it. But one of the ways that was so impactful for me is I had a COO in one of my companies, Aviator Paramotor, which is a powered paragliding training business. And we also manufacture and we have dealers all over the world. And I stole this COO from SpaceX. And he was an amazing gentleman. And witnessing how he went about fragmented challenges. Let's say you have a couple employees who are having it out with this. We can run back time to the first time Trump ran for election, and we had people from different camps in the business, and some people are showing up in their work trucks with Trump flags, and some people are offended, and all these different things. And we didn't feel like that was a workplace environment issue anyway. But I immediately felt the constriction. I hate turbulence. I was basically the middle child, and I like to make sure everyone's at peace around me. And I said, hey, we got to solve this. We got to solve this. And Chris would always look at me and say, Eric, we'll solve it tomorrow. And I just looked at him like, no, we have to solve this now, or it's going to blow up, and it's going to blow up in our face, and it's going to be a problem. And he said, no, Eric, there is no problem so great that we have to solve it before we sleep. And when he started saying that, it at first was really hard for me. I was like, well, fine, you're the COO. You're the one who actually has to deal with this. But it changed something in my soul. All of a sudden, those big challenges where I never want to go to sleep angry with your spouse. Guess what? When you're at 10 o'clock at night, you have 3 kids, you've got 3 companies, you're busy as heck, you're overwhelmed and exhausted. It's not the time to have the deep interpersonal conversation. Sleep on it. When I started stretching these timelines more and more, not ignoring the problem, but actually sitting with my own emotion around it, being present and engaged with my feelings versus reactionary, suddenly everything starts to shift. And I could give you hundreds more examples of how this works, but that was one I thought might work.
Yeah, I love it. Gosh, there's so many things. I'm just nodding my head as you're talking about all that, because it's so true. And you said something that I'm glad you touched on. It's not about ignoring the problem. And that's the key, because I think a lot of times people misunderstand that. You're not ignoring it, but you're allowing the time horizon to do its work. And yeah, really powerful. So were you gonna say something else on that as well?
I could. I mean, the reality of what I've done the last 7 years is learning the emotional experiences and how to be present and engage with whatever they are. So it's not about ignoring that there's a problem or a challenge or a friction that needs to be solved. It's about really getting present with where you stand in it versus allowing your fear response to be the thing that comes out of you. Because when you're leading from fear, you're almost always leading the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's totally true. Leading from fear, you're almost always leading in the wrong direction. Absolutely agree with you on that for sure. Well, if you look at that whole aspect of what you just said and where you currently are, what are some of the big challenges that you're facing right now? And what are the lessons that you're learning from them?
Oh man, there's so many. I mentioned earlier that 25 was such an interesting, challenging year, from loss of family members to loss of business. And we got rolled up in the whole Doge challenges in February. And our biggest client for years has been the Department of Defense. That all went away. But having the right tools to be fully engaged with the challenge instead of quaking and quivering in fear has been huge. So current challenge, I decided to launch this coaching business, basically kicking and screaming. I was on a friend's podcast. We wrapped the podcast. He asked me to coach him. And I said, on what? Like, you're a successful entrepreneur. We make very similar money. Like, I don't get it. He's like, you own 4 companies. You don't work. You live halfway across the country from all of them. Oh, okay. And the podcast released and 7 more people reached out and asked me to coach. And I hit this wall where I said, once I finally made the decision, yes, I'll do this. And not only that, it took 6 months before I charged anyone. I was like, I'll do this for free. I like helping people.
Yeah.
By the way, when you're coaching someone, if they're not paying for it, they're not actually getting the information. They don't actually apply it. So I learned that the hard way. But I decided I didn't want to market the way that I marketed before. I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole of having to make hundreds of pieces of content every week. And mind you, our paramotor business is 100% marketed through YouTube. Like, YouTube was our primary tool. We did 8 figures in revenue just through YouTube over the last 14 years. And I'm good at it. And I enjoy it in a sense, but I had become so attached to actually being engaged and present with my family that the idea of standing in front of a lens instead of witnessing with my own eyes just felt wrong. So this year's challenge, the last year's challenge, has been that we built this thing. We built it to be scalable. We built it to bring community to people who need it most, to both build the systems and structures in their business, and also to do the hard work of looking at your past and healing the parts of you that are living in fear. And I didn't want to market it. So I've only done a few writings on LinkedIn, and I wrote another book, which will come out this year. But choosing to not follow what I know works because it doesn't align with who I am today has been a really interesting challenge. And that's where You talk about this podcast sponsor, and it's like there are all of these new ways of marketing. And I just think that it's so important as we step forward. We've moved from the age of information to the age of connection. And connection and community will, I believe, be the strongest form of currency in the future as we step into this AI powered world. Yeah. So I'm very cautious and careful about how I market and how I connect with people, because I want it to be ethical and I want it to be genuine, and I don't want it to be transactional. So that's the challenge I'm facing now.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's a challenge a lot of people are facing. One of the things, as I talk to people, not only on this podcast with my own clients, it is that whole shift around AI and transactional interactions and what's real, what's not. And I love that you are looking at how do we create that connection, which I think is really key and something that a lot of people are really looking for right now. Not only looking for to receive working in business, but also how do they connect with people? I think that's amazing. Well, over the next, let's say 2 years, let's do 2 years. What are your goals, Eric, with the business? What are you wanting to achieve with your coaching company?
We started off very small. I say we a lot because I can't help myself. Whenever I build a business, it has to be scalable. And at this point, it has to be scalable to operate without me. So I have a coaching and community business. It's a mastermind, for lack of a better term, of incredible entrepreneurs and founders who have started waking up a bit and realizing that everything they've worked for thus far hasn't made them as happy as they thought it would. They want to leave a legacy that actually matters, that makes a real impact. They want a deep relationship with their kids and their partners. And it's been really incredible to witness that. So even though it's been a slow start, we brought in, I think the first year, about 300,000 in revenue. We'll expect we'll probably 10x that this year, maybe more, because as all things do, when you're building them to scale in a way that doesn't hold itself back based on your ego, the fact I don't have to be there for this community to exist. I have incredible other leaders who can step in and do. I took my family to Hawaii for a couple of weeks this past year, and I didn't have to come to the calls. I didn't go to the calls. It was happening without me. And so we're at that place of scale now where it is about letting more people know what's happening. And so the edge for me is relaunching my podcast and doing new things that don't violate my ethics, as far as I don't want to be just blatantly marketing constantly. I hired a team for that because I refuse. They're like, okay, and in fact, huge shout out, because she's amazing. Her name is Ariana Acuna. She's on LinkedIn. She is one of my clients, and now I'm one of her clients because in 8 hours, she made me 3 months of content. Literally, wow. Walked into a room, sat down, filmed for 8 hours. She interviewed me the whole time. It was easy, and all the content's done. I was like, oh, and they post it, they manage it, they handle the comments, they handle the post. I'm like, that's marketing in a way that I can actually accept it. That doesn't take me out of the moment with my kids. I can actually still be present. So huge shout out to Ariana. She is a wizard at this, and she's been the voice behind some of the biggest names that you would definitely know. So really, really cool to see that there are ways to step into a discomfort and push an edge that still support who I want to be today.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it, Eric. Well, for people that are wanting to learn a little bit more about you and coaching business, what's the best place for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I'm extremely accessible, and that's on purpose. If I there will be a time where my assistant will be replying to everything, but as it stands, I love to chat with people. Anyone who's a fan of Jason's, who wants to come on for a conversation, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be glad to give to you some time of mine. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, they're all there. It's all Eric Farewell, EricFarewell, also ericfarewell.com. And I'm the only Eric Farewell in the world that I know of. So it should be pretty easy to find me. We definitely love a conversation, and just make sure you let me know that Jason sent you. This podcast is a special place for high achievers who want to go further. So I'm be honored to chat with you.
Amazing. That's very cool. And very cool that you're the only Eric Farewell that you know of in the world. That's quite unique as well. So wonderful.
New book coming out next year. So please, whenever this releases, look and see. You never know, the book might be out already.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I definitely recommend everyone go check out the different places that Eric said. I just talking with him, and even before the podcast started, I know that he can add a lot of value to what you're doing. So Eric, thank you so much for being on the podcast. great pleasure having you on. And as a reminder to everyone listening, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everyone hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.